I'm Gwendolyn Sterk from Sterk Family Law, and I have the honor and privilege to have Dr. Terry McCormick with me today of Konick Associates. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
No problem at all. So I know that Konick Associates has offices both in Orland Park and Naperville. Can you tell us a little bit generally about what the services Konick Associates provide?
Sure. We provide services for children, teens, adults, adults, couples, and families. We work with individuals who suffer from a wide variety of mental health or behavioral health or adjustment disorders, such as helping individuals develop skills to manage life transition, whether that be through divorce or separation or loss of any kind. Also working with anxiety, depression, children on the autism spectrum. Also working with first responders, managing vicarious trauma, PTSD, with geriatric population, if they've had any trauma, loss, or just life transition problems as well. We also provide psychological testing and neuropsychological testing. Also test for autism spectrum, assist schools with development of individual education plans, and testing for giftedness.
Boy, so it's really a broad gamut of the entire population, from young children that might be on the autism spectrum all the way to geriatric patients. Would that be true?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
So it's really a large and wide variety of help that you can provide. So let's start and talk generally about the autistic spectrum clientele. So that would both be for the children as well as for the adults, correct? So if you have a child, helping that adjustment process as well.
Correct. So working with the child, helping them develop the skills needed to manage socially or academically, and then also including the parents in that process. So there's a transition when they're in the home, they can practice those skills and they can help for the betterment of the child. And then also providing services for the parents or the family if needed on how to cope, learning coping skills and ways to manage those stressors that can't come up.
Sure. So not only are you broad in terms of the population you serve, from children all the way to geriatric patients, but even then when you do a concentration, you're doing the whole gamut then, the entire family, and able to help people move forward in that way. So now you talked about testing. There's a lot of common questions that come up. And first of all, you talked about psychological testing and then neuropsych testing. Can you tell us the difference there and what that involves?
Sure. With psychological testing, it's a battery of tests that we look at both objective and subjective information from the testing results. So that would include perhaps an IQ test. It would include a test to see if there's any depression or anxiety, or perhaps any psychotic features that are coming out, picking up on personality traits as well. And then we also have projective measures, the subjective end of the testing, which from those measures also, like the Rorschach, a lot of people have heard of the ink block test, or the TAT, which is another projective measure where there's a story that's being told to a picture that is shown to a client to kind of get a better sense of their internal world. And then what we do is we take all of that information and kind of look for that golden thread that shows up in all of the testing. And it helps to clarify a diagnostic impression for the client, helping us then to understand what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and helps us then develop recommendations to help them be successful in their life and ease maybe some of that pain that they're going through. When we talk about neuropsychological testing, we're also doing a lot of the objective tests I spoke about, perhaps the IQ test, but we're going a little bit further. We're focusing on attention and concentration. We're talking about if there's any delay with memory, perhaps, or any deficit in cognition. And then also we take all of that information, and that helps us develop an effective treatment plan for that individual.
Would it be fair to say that psychological testing is really more objective than subjective?
Correct, yes.
Mm-hmm. So then that, coupled with the psychological testing, which could encompass both objective and subjective, allows you to get a more broad stroke or broad spectrum about what might be going on.
Correct. It gives us a bigger picture of what the client's world is like for them internally. And then we can, like I said, kind of develop a personalized treatment plan with objectives and goals and how they can then use those to be successful, whether it's within the school system or even whether just at home life and
Very
out and
good.
about.
Now, you also assist parents and families. So with regard to that, you would be assisting them through the divorce process, both maybe before and then after, to allow parents to have a plan to move forward and have good communication. Would that be true?
That's very true. That's exactly it. It's helping individuals with that transition, even if they're just taking those first steps, maybe even in just the contemplating divorce or in that separation phase, helping them understand their emotions, their warning signs, their triggers to their environment or with their partner, and facilitating open communication between both parents and what co-parenting is going to look like moving forward, even post-divorce.
Sure. And I think that that's really important to look at what that future is going to look like, because it can help people then accept maybe what that plan is that they're formulating at the time of the divorce. I also read something very interesting on your website called walking therapy. Can you tell us about that? Because that sounded fun.
Sure. I love the walking therapy. So walking therapy, it is outside if a client does not feel comfortable being in the office, or maybe it's a beautiful day, just being able to walk on one of the trails, still maintaining confidentiality, making sure that there's nobody else on that site. But a lot of people become more relaxed when we're just walking and just kind of having a casual conversation and being able to explore and kind of help them process some of the thoughts that they're having in their minds. And sometimes just putting words to the thoughts helps. And when you're out in nature, you can be more mindful. You can be in the moment. You're not distracted looking at that clock or at your watch. You're able to be really present in that therapeutic process.
Sure. And it makes you relaxed and able maybe to communicate a little better. And then I also noticed you have the telehealth with that, which obviously seems to be the trend, so to speak. Do you see that being in place for a long period of time into the future?
I think for now it's here. However, we are doing some back in the office. Some clients do prefer face-to-face, and there's safety precautions that are set in place to make sure that the client is safe, myself or the other clinicians are safe. But I think telehealth is going to be here for a little while yet.
Yeah, I do too. Interesting change. And do you find that telehealth, do people talk more? Do they feel more comfortable when they're not in the office, or does it not? Do you find that it doesn't really matter one way or another?
I think it's based on the individual. Some individuals are more open talking because they are in the comfort of their homes. Other individuals are a little bit more distracting depending on what we're working on. However, it's still a benefit to have telehealth versus having no connection with our clients during this time.
Sure, absolutely. And the pandemic has given rise to a lot of different concerns, and mental health being a serious concern outside there. What would you tell somebody today that might be struggling? They're listening to it, they hear the variety of services, no matter what their age is, they need to take that first step. What is it that you would tell somebody why they should join or give you a call to start the process?
Sure, it comes down to, it does take a lot of strength and courage to make that first phone call. And then it takes a lot of strength and courage to attend that first session. I would encourage individuals to take that step, to push outside of their comfort zone, learn to be, comfortable being uncomfortable in a sense, making that step so they don't have to suffer long term. They don't have to go through this alone. There are wonderful clinicians that are there to be empathetic and supportive and help them recognize, what's under their control and what's not, especially during these times.
Sure. And to give that steer and that guidance. And I think sometimes, people feel paralyzed by the process. I know that's true in divorce as an attorney, and I know it's true in mental health because I've seen our own, clients go through different struggles. By taking that first call and getting that security and kind of getting that relationship set up can really help you on a day-to-day basis cope with what's going to be, the future for you, and help you make direction. And I think that's a very good point. So outside of picking up the phone, what should somebody do? What's the best step? If somebody called you randomly or saw you and said, I really want to get started, what do they do to get a hold of you, and what do you recommend to them?
Sure, they can look on our website. They can make the phone call. They can book an appointment through the website. A lot of clients sometimes have difficulty making that phone call. So having it be computer-based on the website, they can click and then enter in their information to start the process going. And I would also want to put out to them that taking care of your mental health is the same as taking care of your physical health, and kind of normalize the mental health process. There's always been that stigma there, and just to kind of destigmatize a little bit. And mental health, like I said, it's the same as physical health. We have to take care of our whole being.
That's right. It's no different than going to get blood pressure medicine, right? I mean, it's just a regulation. It's just trying to balance your life and moving forward and getting that direction.
Mhm.
So very good. So it's been nice to talk to you today. I think that if you're listening today and you're struggling with whatever that issue may be, you know, a lot of people have older adults that are growing up, their parents, and now they have that care, or you've got a parent who's suffering, or you've got a child who you see is having difficulties. No matter what the circumstance, you've heard that this group deals with all ages. So taking that first step and just reaching out, and it's great that you can sign it up online instead of having to talk to somebody the first time, because it gives you that kind of privacy or that little impetus to not have to make it simple. And so if you're listening today, please consider that option and consider your mental health to be just as important as your physical health, like we talked about. So thanks for joining us today, Dr. McCormick. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.